This demo we will cover starting from the main components which are required in a project, and the work breakdown structure which you can see on the screen is a very important part of a project. And basically work breakdown structure is a description of the work which need to be done in a project. So, and then it is a hierarchy. You can see on the screen that there is a main node of a construction project by phase, then there is planning, execution, and the control and closeout. Under each of the node, then there are further breakdown of various tasks. So apart from this, these are the nodes which basically break down into smaller chunks of tasks. But the work breakdown structure also include, apart from composition of work, the size of work, and also includes the cost of the work. Cost means maybe per hour rate of manpower or professionals, and then each component or task is included duration of that. So duration in hours, of course. So the size, the cost, and duration of each component or task will be included. Size can also mean not only duration. Size means the amount of work required. So in this way, there are three purposes of a work breakdown structure. So it can be to describe the breakdown or composition of work in smaller tasks, and also to schedule the project work, and apart from that to estimate the cost of each task, how much cost will be required. So the degree of detail in work breakdown structure normally depends upon whatever the level of accuracy is required. And in certain industries, there is a very low tolerance of slippage and schedule or cost. Usually when cost definitely increase when at the last moment more of the tasks are now incorporated or changes are required. So definitely the cost and slippage of course will be there. Deadlines will not meet, and that's why in those cases the detailed work breakdown structure will be required. And also to have a very accurate tracking or strict tracking, diligent tracking of work progress is required, and to keep track on the cost also on the work breakdown structure. Normally if you can see in the screen, so this is a construction project. Normally in construction or engineering industries, such accuracy is required. In the engineering and construction industries, the precision of work and definitely each task depends upon the other tasks, and then also the cost is also very high. So that's why in engineering and construction industries, higher accuracy is required. And in contrast to construction and engineering industry, there is media, advertisement, software, and IT infrastructure kind of industry where the projects, they are not very we cannot do micromanagement of these tasks, and then competency of individual is also variable. There are certain experience and people who are well trained in skills, and there are certain who are mediocre, and then there is a low level of skill set. So we cannot determine that, for example, if a person who can do work of software engineering or something in 1 hour, so the other person will also do the same work in 1 hour. So that's why there is a variable level of accuracy, and approximate size of project is required in those projects, so that we cannot track the progress of the project in very detailed level. Approximation will be definitely useful in those kind of projects. So the work breakdown structure, the development of it is very intensive, definitely process, and it can also take a long period, and also a team collaboration, project management team will be required, and a variety of people will definitely give their input in deciding the work breakdown structure. So now we can start with, there are certain prerequisite in when we talk about project management and accounting module in D365. So there are certain prerequisite in the module. So first of all, we need to definitely configure a calendar. So we'll switch to D365, and let me show you that in the project, once we go to the project management accounting module. So there is a, project management accounting parameters, and once we open it, so there is a, calendar which is by default selected in the tab of scheduling. So there is a default working calendar defined here, and this need to be defined before we can go ahead with any of the project. So because in order to schedule, that's why it's very important for work breakdown structure. So let's go to the main form, which is also located on organization and administration module. So once we go to organization administration, so in the setup we can go to calendars, and in the calendars the same form will open. So there is a standard already in the Contoso data, but we'll create our own. So we'll just go ahead with creation of the calendar here, and we can name it as a project. The name of calendar is project calendar, and standard work days we'll keep it 8 hours, and then we can go to the working times from once we have defined the header. So we can go to the working time, and in the working time we can click compose working time command, and there we have options. We are already in the project calendar, and then the dates need to be defined, date range. So it will be from and to date, this one, and 1st of January to 31st of December of current year. And similarly, in working time template, basically I can show you. Basically we decide about weekdays, and the beginning time and end time, and if there are any breaks, so those can also be defined. So once we are here, we can give it a template, a name. For example, we can give it 40 hours, 8 hour and 40 hours per week, and I can make it like 14 8 hour 8 hour a day and 40 hours a week. And we need to give a logical name so that it is easily understandable that what it contains basically. So we will make like per day 8 hours, uh, 40 hours per week, and 9 to 6, 1 hour lunch break. So this we can give in the description, and then we can start with first day of Monday, and here we can give it, for example, the start time we can make like 8, and then 8 to 12 with 100% efficiency, and then we can add one more, and we can make here like 1300 hours, and for 6 p.m. we can put here 1800 hours. So this is how we have created a gap of 1 hour between 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. So in this way Monday is defined. Now we can just go ahead with the copy day command. The copy day command will copy the current time to any other weekday. which are at the bottom. So we'll just go ahead with the Tuesday with the same value. So it will copy the same timing to the Tuesday, and then also copy to Wednesday and other days which are working days, and leave the weekends. So just go ahead with the Wednesday, and then Thursday. We can define now Friday. So up till Friday we have defined the timings, and only we have left Saturday and Sunday. So we don't need to define for Saturdays and Sundays because those 2 days are weekend. So we will just save this and close. So now we can select our time template. So this is 8 hour 40 hour per week. So we can choose the work time template now, and for any type of if we define other calendars, we can choose the same working time template. So once we have defined the date range of current whole year, so we can just go ahead and click OK, and it will compose the working timings for us for the whole year. So now we can see on the screen that at the above level the days are defined, and then if there are Saturday and Sunday the timings which we have not selected in a template, so that is now selected as close, and close for pickup means in scheduling these 2 days will not be picked up. And once we click any of the date, so at the bottom you can see the timings of that date is available, which it has picked up from the timing templates. So in this way whole year is defined. That's it, and we'll just save it and close. So now we have defined the calendar for projects, so we'll just close it, and we can go to the project module and project management and accounting. In the project management and accounting, we can click on the parameters in the setup, and then we can click scheduling, and from here the default working calendar is selected now to be project. So now on any of the work breakdown structure or anywhere where we'll do the scheduling, so it will pick our new calendar. So now we'll start with the work breakdown structure. But before work breakdown structure, there is a certain setup which need to be done, and that is the category groups, shared categories, and project categories. So what are these? Basically, these are labor labor in hours, and then expenses and fee categories. So they need to be defined before we can set up the pricing of each of these categories. So the pricing will be set in pricing group here. In the setup, once you are in the setup of project management and accounting, then in the categories, you can define category group, shared categories, and project categories. And once you have done with all these, then we can define what is the cost price per hour, for example labor cost, and it can be for each of the stage of for example in construction work breakdown structure, for each of the tasks, for example paint or some other task during construction, So that can vary based upon the labor available in the market. So that can be different, and you can define different categories for each of the tasks, and then associate that category within the cost price in hours, and similar is for expense and fee categories. So the sale pricing in these three categories, like hour, expense, and fee. Hour for labor, and expense for any kind of expense which incurred during. It can be a revenue based expense. It can be only cost based expense, and also the fee is a fixed revenue when you charge, for example, your client on a specific. For example, fee or fixed bonuses or something like that. But also then cost price for hour and expense will definitely help us in calculating the margin when it will subtract from the sale price, the cost price. So the margin and contribution ratio will be calculated. So I will just show you how the setup has been already done. So once we go to the category group first, so basically just like other subledger modules, the grouping here also, like if you have seen the vendor group or customer group or any other grouping like fixed asset groups, then basically the grouping is there are two benefits of grouping. One is the ledger integration of grouping with the, from subledger to ledger, means you can define your main account in this group. For example, here the revenue account can be defined. I can show you like this project hour, which is the labor cost for project. So here the invoice revenue account is defined, which is chargeable, and then the cost account, that is a expense account, is also defined, cost of project for the labor. And work in progress, if in case this is the investment type of project and later on we need to capitalize the expense, so that can also be in a balance sheet account. We can maintain whatever the expense is incurring, so that at the last when we need to capitalize that asset, once it is built up, and so that will be available in balance sheet account. So that is also possible, and there are various kind of work in progress account, like a production, sales value, work in progress, profit, and subscription. So these all type of accounts can be defined within a category group. So in the category group, all once these accounts are set up, I can show you one more, which is the project expense type of account, and here also revenue expenses, and if I can show you work in progress sales value. So work in progress expense, and same is with the cost is this is cost of project expenses, and this is work in progress expense. So this is a balance sheet account, and then the project item, when the item is procured, and the pricing is set through trade agreements, and that those items are utilized during the project. So that also can be set up with the various ledger accounts, cost of project products, and similar for the revenue account, revenue products when we invoice the customer, so that will be hit. And work in progress sales value for investment kind of projects. And so in this way travel expense is also defined here. So of course during a project we can also have travel expenses for even transportation of maybe transportation of material, or if the labor is to be transported from one place to another, so that is also that will go to the travel expense. So once these all accounts are defined, then from here also you can go to the category group, but I will show you from outside. This is basically shared categories. And what is difference between project categories and shared categories? Basically shared categories are across the legal entity. So if one legal entity, a person in one legal entity has been assigned a project in another legal entity, so those categories will be available. And then on the basis of that shared category, project categories can be defined, and both should have the same name. So once we are in shared category, the settings here is like this category, which is a shared category, can be used in a project module, or can be used in a production, or in an expense module. So this shared category can be either of these three. So that is defined first here, and then that shared category is utilized in project categories. So we need to define the project category. Why? Because now the categories which will be selected in in work breakdown structure, those need to have the cost and sales value. So in the project categories, now we can see here the category ID is defined and category name is defined. So this basically category group is also define. I can show you, for example, if we can go to car rental. So in car rental, this category ID is basically it's coming from the shared category, and that is the same like this category, and then use in expense is turned as yes, because this is expense type of category, and then the group which is responsible for ledger account setup is project expense. So that we can also go to category setup. In the category setup also, the cost price and sales price can be defined. So once we have defined the project category, then the cost part and sales part can be defined from here as well, and there is another link from outside which I will show you in a moment. So then you can see the once you have defined the category group, the accounts will be defaulted. Also here, which you can override, and other settings like default payments and other things are also possible. And also the one important thing is this default line property. This can be billable or non-billable, and billable is which we'll need to charge to customer, and non-billable is which we don't need, that will be basically an expense to us, and we will not be charging to the customer. If we can go to the fee, project fee here, basically we need, and then there is general contracting. When we are subcontracting our project work to external parties or vendors, so that is general contracting, and that need to be defined here. So the basically the project categories are for subcontracting, and as well as when the manpower is ours, and so this is a project management category. And if we can go and check the cost price. So effective date is from which the cost will be effective, and there is a cost price column here where we can define in USD. Definitely the base currency of this company is USD, so this cost price is in USD. And other variables, I mean the values can also be selected if we want to be specific to the project ID base or price group based, and if we are making it for a specific project contract ID, because that contract ID can be sometimes shared along with the multiple projects. One contract can have multiple projects. So, but all, one project will only be associated to a single contract. By that mean that multiple different project can be associated with a single contract, but a project can have only one contract. It cannot have two contracts. So basically there is a commonality, that is a contract ID, and on the basis of that contract, a project can be a different project and can be the one same project. So then there is a customer account wise, and once you define any of these values, so definitely that cost price will be effective on the combination of that value. And for example, here also the resource is also defined, so that resource will have a different value, so that is also possible here. And once I close it, and I can then go to the sale price. In the category setup, we can go to the sale price. So here the margin basically will be calculated. And now here the form is same, the like cost price, but here you can see the pricing is as per sales value, so the difference will be the margin. And then the contribution ratio can be calculated, and the currency can also be defined here, which was not the case in cost price, because that will get from base currency. And the sale price can be definitely a different for different country as well, and for different currency in which the customer is working. So basically on the basis of that, where different values again on the basis of combination can be defined here. So that is it. After defining, the sale price, after defining, there are multiple things now. Category group, we need to define share categories. Once we define shared categories, then we can define in the shared category. In the category group, we define the ledger account setup, and in the shared category, we need to define whether this category will be definitely it will be across the multiple legal entities, but whether it will be available in production, in project, or in expense. And then once we define shared category, on the basis of shared category, we'll define the project categories. So once the project category is defined, then we can define the cost price for hour and expense, and sales price for hour, expense, and fee. So these are available basically from the project category, and a separate form is also given where you can define against various project categories the cost price. So here you can see the cost price hour is defined on the basis of categories, and this form will show you different categories as well, meanwhile in the same time. So once cost price is defined, then definitely the sale price need to be defined, and cost price is also available for expense also, which we have not yet defined here. And because now expense is normally variable, so and in the sale price you can see again, just like cost price here, in the external link you can find various categories at the same time, and against those various categories the sale price is defined. In the last you can see, and the currency is also defined along with the sales price model, which is quantity here. So in this way all this setup is done. Then we can go to the work breakdown structure template, and basically we need to define this template before it is easy. Once we define the template, that can be used in the project quotation and in the project itself. So we can just create a new so we'll give it a name like construction phases, and just give it a name, and click OK. And in the description we can give it a better name, full name also. So this is a kind of work breakdown structure, a simple work breakdown structure used in construction project. So there will be planning phase, execution, control, and closeout. And during each of the phase there will be subtask, and then subtask will be at the minute level we can define concrete tasks. And in the execution is same way, like there are three different activities like foundation, exterior, and interior. And within each of the activity, or you can call it a phase as well, during foundation there will be certain activities which will be performed. So excavate, for concrete and subtask and subtask and subtask. So these are just sample task. And then exterior will have like framing, siding, roofing, landscaping. And then in the interior will be defined to have a drywall, electrical work, plumbing finishes. So once it is done, so controlling basically can be also during the whole phase of project. It's not a separate, rather it will be throughout. So there will be scheduling, budget, and quality, and for each of then there will be milestones, my monitoring, and during budget it will be cost accounting, resource management, and in the quality there will be site inspection and contract compliance. So there will be definitely there will be variable, even different activities which we are not focusing here. It is just a sample, so it can be even a detailed level. And then the closeout, that is a project closure, and that will have occupancy permit, site audit, the three main phases. And during each of the phase, the activities performed are inspection, fillings, uh, that is basically filings, and then the site is clean up, demobilize equipment, and then in the audit there will be document handover and contract compliance. So we will try to define these all activities within D365. So we'll just, so what we need to do is basically we need to first understand basically what the work breakdown structure form offers to us. And so that will, we will define, and we'll just understand by during the definition of various phases, and then subtasks, tasks and subtasks. So we'll just start with the new. Once we click new, so definitely there will be a default category which is assigned through parameters, so that I can show you. Just go to the project management accounting parameters. So in there you can go to journals. In the journal you can see there is a default category which is for our, it is a PM activity, there is a project management activity, and same way is there is a expense category which is travel here, and then item category project item, and same is for fee category. So this can be defined here, so that whenever you are defining a work breakdown structure, so automatically the default category will be populated, instead of you need to select every time. So it will be easy for you. So just go back to work breakdown structure templates. Just give let me give it so basically, what is the predecessors? Basically, these are dependencies of one task on another task. So that cannot start until the previous task is completed. So that is basically to define the dependency. So once we have just we are back here, we can see the category is defaulted as I just showed you in parameters. So we just need to give this as a name from the work breakdown structure. So just give it like planning, and then just click new, and then execution, control, then there is a closeout. So the effort in hours need to be defined, that is basically duration of that activity, which will define just let me complete the Now the phases are defined, and now what we need to do is we need to define the task and then subtask. So the task is construction documents in planning. So I will just select that planning and then click new command, and there is one row is inserted, and then I need to indent it so that it will go to a sub level, a level down to the planning, and then I can define here construction documents, and now I can just click new, and it will give me one more row where I can again indent it and make it like scope. So once scope is defined, then I can go at a bottom level, same level of scope. So this is a subtask. So this will be detailed drawings, and then there is a budget and schedule. Just define now schedule. So we are done with the planning phase, and once I can show you how it looks. So this is basically planning at one level, and then 1.1 is construction documents, and then there are subtasks during construction of documents, scope, detailed drawings, budget, schedule. And now we can go ahead with execution in the same way and make it also indent. So in execution, there are basically three tasks, three activities, main activities, which are foundation, exterior, and interior. So I will define these first: foundation, exterior, and interior. So once this is defined, then I can go to the even in-depth level. So I will just define the whole work breakdown structure, and then we'll just continue from there. So now we are in the controlling phase. In the controlling, we have defined the main activity schedule, budget, and quality. And now in the schedule, we need to define the subtask. So we'll just press Alt N in order to define a new row, insert a new row. And there we need to indent it so that a sub level is defined. It will turn into sub level. And now there are milestones, and then alter n, and there is a monitoring, and then we can go to the budget. Now in the budget level, we will define one more level, alter n, and then we'll need to make it indent. So now there will be In the budget will be cost accounting and resource management. That is done, and then there will be quality. So in the quality, site inspection and contract compliance. And we need to make it indent. Now we are in the last, and this one is contract compliance. So we have almost defined the whole work breakdown structure template, and if I can show you, this was our work breakdown structure, and this is for a construction project as a sample. It is a phase wise. So basically what we have defined is in front of you. And there is expansion also, which you can contract and expand the tree if you want to collapse all. So this will become the at very first level. Actually we have not yet defined efforts in hours, and those need to be defined at very low level. The last subtask or subtask. So once the hours are defined, so those hours or the effort will be roll up in the above the bigger task or the grouping. It will automatically be done. So the lower level hours will be total in the higher level. So the category is taken from the parameters. As I told you, dependency is not yet defined. So we can define the dependencies of each task, which I will just show you as a part of so for example, we cannot start the excavate without ending the schedule part, which is the last part. So I will just make this dependency. So that will be scheduled. So that you can even select multiple dependencies. That is also possible here. So but it is not logical, so I will just make the last schedule part. So it depends upon project by project, and whoever are the project manager, they are best judge which task is dependent on which. And then you can also change the category here, so that the pricing or the cost will be calculated from that specific category. Execute activity will be from a different skill set level. So each of the skill set can have a different cost, so that you can achieve by defining various categories for each of the against each of the activity or task. So once those categories are defined, so definitely, as I told you, the costing, cost price, and sale price can be defined. Sale price will be chargeable to the customer, and cost price will be for our margin calculation. So effort in hours is very important part. So we will just input a few in the hours we need to define. So we will just uh, input example, we'll just make it 15 days effort. So 15 day per day effort, 15 multiplied by 8, 120 hours effort. So I will just put 120 hours. And number of resources, definitely this is for one person or multiple person. So that is also need to be defined. So the hours will be 120 hours for 15 multiplied by 12. 15 multiplied by 8, 8 hours per day, and 15 will be for 15 days. Let me refresh this. So the work effort which I have defined is 8 hours per day and into 15 days. So that will be 120 hours. So I have defined this in execavate. So in this one, 120 hours already roll up to the foundation level, and from there also to execution level, and from execution it is total in on overall the work breakdown structure level. That is effort in hours is 120 hours. So in this way I can define other also. So I will just enter as an example like 100 hours, and then for example 80 hours. These are all subtasks, so I don't know what task is this. So we'll just enter the sample hours here. So you can see whenever the focus is changed, so the total is already done. And now to start with the scope. And it is also important number of resources here. It is right now it is by default 1. So in the scope I can make it for example 50 hours. Detailed drawings will be major activity, so make it 100. Budgeting also make it 40, and scheduling make it 50 hours. So number of resources can also be changed, that is 1 man hour or 2 man hour. So to make sure that once duration is defined, dependency must be defined in the last phase, so it's better, because otherwise there will be difficulty in entering the effort in hours, because each of the task once it is dependent, so it will create problem. So I will create schedule 50. Let me remove this. I can make also uncheck all and press OK. Now just fill in 50 hours. So the framing of exterior we can make it like 100 hours, and then siding for example can be 50, and roofing 120. So landscaping can be lesser effort. And the drive wall will make it for example 40 hours, and electrical can be 50 hours. plumbing can be also 50, and finish is also 50. So the contract compliance, it will be, for example, 20 hours. Document handover is 5 hours. Demobilize equipment can be 12 hours. Cleanup is also 24 hours. And in this way, filings can be 36. Inspection can be 12. Contract compliance can be 12-hour activity. Site inspection, make it 12. And then resource management. This is overall, activities. Some activities like in controlling can be throughout the project execution. So it cannot be a separate one, but only to give an estimate like how much time it will be required for resource management. So we can make it, for example, 40 hours. Cost accounting can be 24. And then monitoring is a throughout activity, can be 50 hours. And milestone 12 hours. So in this way we have defined the work breakdown structure template. And what about this view is showing scheduling. And if we go to the cost estimate, so you can see now there is a default cost and the sales price associated here. So from where it is coming, basically it is coming from the category which we have assigned, that is PM, and we can change also based upon our requirements. Like a scope can be a scoping category, and detailed drawings can be a drawing category, budget for budgeting, and schedule for scheduling. And each of the category can have also a different cost and sale price. So once that is defined, then automatically, because now all the categories are same, so here it will calculate the cost estimate based upon the PM category. So the project management category is in hour, and that is defined here. The total cost and sale prices coming from there. And then the line property, you can see here, it is a billable because that is defined already in the category. So if we can expand it to, for example, 4 level, the maximum level, you can see all at the granular level, which is the very low level, and you can see all are the same, like same category is defined, and cost and sale price is defined. So in this way the margin can be calculated, and we can define a work breakdown structure template, which we can then utilize in the project quotation and the project itself. So we will definitely cover those parts in my next video. So keep in touch, and thank you very much, and see you in my next video. Take care.